Hello everybody, my name is Luke Marr and this is Haute Mode, and today on Haute Mode we are getting into the red carpet for the Critics' Choice Awards. This is the second week of award season. I don't know how many weeks we have left. I'm going day by day, minute by minute, hour by hour, week by week, possibly month by month, and at this point, year by year. I just don't know, but award season is happening. Now, Critics' Choice in my Rolodex of award shows is one that I don't really know the format for in terms of fashion. I don't really know if it's like meant to be very high-end, red carpet, gala-worthy sort of styles, or if it's sort of like anything goes. But I think in the age of COVID at this point, like, as long as you're not wearing sweatpants, listen, let's talk about it. So without further ado, let's get into this red carpet. So first up is Algee Smith, or Algee Smith. I'm not really sure, and I've heard two different people pronounce it two different ways, so apologies in advance, and I know the comments are gonna tell me how I pronounced it wrong anyway, so like, I'm just waiting for that. But he's wearing Versace. I love it. I think it's great. I think it's wonderful. It's from that great spring 2021 collection. And honestly, after seeing the most recent Versace collection, I'm taking anything Versace and just being happy with it as long as it's not that new horrible monogram. I really like the jacket. I actually think it's really, really nice. And it has this beautiful crystal encrusted red starfish sort of brooch style, which to me takes the idea of a brooch, which is normally very sort of like feminized, or usually only women wear brooches, and sort of gives it a little bit more of a unisex feel. It doesn't feel like a crystal encrusted gigantic starfish only belongs to one gender. It feels like it belongs to everybody, and I'll take that at this point. I also feel like the nice little crispy light pink tank top underneath is great. It sort of adds a little bit more of a casual feel. It doesn't feel super duper formal, and I feel like for Algee, it's nice. He's young, he seems really cool. In that regard, it sort of takes away button down shirt, tie clip, all of that like formality bullshit that at this point, who really cares? Also, I'm not obsessed with the oversized pants. I understand for some people they love that vibe. I don't get it. It just doesn't seem super flattering. It sort of falls at the sneaker or the shoe or whatever that is and just kerfuffles. It crumples, but it feels like it's a kerfuffling. I'm making that up as a new way that pants fall. It's kerfuffling and I don't love it. But I love that he took a risk. I really love that it's a nice sort of cool Versace look. It's a different take on a suit, but still has that professionalism of going to like an award show, but at the same time it's like young and hip and sort of more comfortable and casual, which in the age of COVID, like, hey, do what you gotta do. So next up is Amanda Seyfried, and she is wearing Miu Miu. I'm gonna give claps because I think this is very experimental, or not very experimental, but it's experimental enough to be experimental. She's wearing a sheer top that in the center has a white button-down bow tie and black button fixture, I'll call it. Surrounding said fixture is silver embroidery or embellishments that essentially pipe the whole fixture and then sort of slowly creep out onto the shoulders and arms. There's a black pant attached, and that sort of feels in line with the white button-down bow tie feel. To me, it feels like it's a take on a sort of classic suit, but totally redux. There's no blazer, there's no jacket, that sort of formality is taken out of it, but you do add a little bit more of a, I don't want to say dangerous element because it's not really dangerous, a little bit more of a daring element in wearing a sort of sheer shirt that has this piping of crystals and yet still incorporating this sort of old world idea of a suit in terms of those three little black buttons, the button-down shirt, and the bow tie. I wouldn't say that it is the best thing in the entire world, but I do want to give, respect to it because it is experimental. It is taking a risk. I do think it's totally different than the sort of light, frilly, very sort of gorgeous, beautiful pink Oscar de la Renta floral gown that we saw last week, but I think it also shows that Amanda definitely has range and that she's definitely trying to be a fashion girl. And at this point, anybody trying to be a fashion girl, trying to serve different looks, different styles, sort of, being diverse in their palette of clothing choices, I'll be happy about it. I think that's great. I think that's wonderful. Will I say it totally rocked my socks and I'm obsessed with it? No, but I have to say for an experimental experience. Next up is Andra Day, and she is wearing Prada, and I'm enjoying this. I really like this sort of strange, abrupt, ombre, strapless top that has an asymmetrical sash in the front that flows over a pair of what look like army green. I want to call them cargo pants, but I know that they're not cargos because they don't have pockets, but they feel like pocketless cargo pants. Let's talk about the look though. I do think the pulling is sort of different. I do think that you have this sort of purple that migrates into a dark gray, which migrates into a light gray, which migrates into a lightish dark green, which then migrates into a more sort of army greenish brown. I think it's interesting. I don't really know how Prada it is. I'm not saying that it's not Prada because it could be from a collection I don't know about or a reference to a collection I don't know about. But I do think that it's different. I do think it's sort of taking on a different idea of what red carpet wear can be. I feel like the straplessness gives it sort of like a regality, but at the same time, the fact that you're doing sort of a strapless top and a little bit of like a baggier pant than a sharp sort of cigarette pant, it does give it a more relaxed feel, which I think, considering she's not on a red carpet right now, I can't be mad about it. I don't think that there's anything to be mad about. And that's why I said early on with the Critics' Choice Awards, I don't know necessarily what the attire normally is, like what is the standard Critics' Choice Awards attire. So this isn't strange to me. I think it's definitely more fashion than it is like red carpet, but I'm not mad about that. I don't think that's a bad thing. I definitely think it's a risk, and I'm actually hoping to see more Prada looks from Andra Day because I do know that in the Billie Holiday film that she's in Hulu, she wears a couple of Prada designed looks, so I'm kind of hoping that we're seeing a little bit more Prada because I feel like there'll be fun nods to Raf Simons and Miuccia Prada's work, and maybe even just Miuccia Prada sort of classics, and I want to see more of that. I will say, it's not an ugly Prada red carpet moment, so like, I'm happy about that. And I do think it's a little bit more put together, and it's also just a little bit different, and that's okay. I think that's fine. I'm intrigued by this, and I don't think that that's a bad thing whatsoever. Next up is Anya Taylor-Joy. Now, a lot of you are still thinking about Anya's green look by Christian Dior, which was Haute Couture from last week. We're looking at another Christian Dior Haute Couture look here in this beautiful sort of tulle purple. Listen, I personally think that this is another really strong look. I think Anya and Law Roach have a very good grasp on Dior Haute Couture. This tulle, evidently, if we start at the bust, is sort of draped in a symmetrical style where the bust is definitely shaped. Like the breasts are being sort of shaped in their own way. And then at the sternum, you sort of have this triangular shape emerge. And essentially with a triangular shape, you do see this sort of lattice work style where this tulle or the strips of tulle are sort of layered over each other to create this sort of lattice work moment. And I actually think it's really, really lovely. I do like the fact that it's all being worked in with the tulle. It's not tulle at the skirt and some crazy sort of discombobulated bust that has nothing to do with the tulle skirt. I think the fact that we're using tulle throughout the entirety of this dress to create really beautiful details that flow into each other really, really well is very smart, and I feel like I am crazy because I'm talking about Christian Dior by Maria Grazia in a really positive light, but I think it's really smart. It almost feels like we're finally getting to the place where this makes sense. We are utilizing what we have to make beautiful dresses. Like, that's what it is. Beautiful gowns, Christian Dior, I'm here for it. At the waist, you have this strip of fabric that almost looks like a belt, but it's not a belt. Thank you, Maria Grazia. But the tulle that flows from it, I think, is actually very streamlined. It's not some crazy big ball gown. It's not giving you 1947 Dior new look. It's just utilizing the fabric, which is the tulle here, to do its job. It's not trying to be something that it's not. It's not trying to compensate for the hot mess at the top. The top is where your eyes are drawn to, and the skirt allows the sort of full length elegance, opulence to just be there. To me, the skirt is like a supportive flying buttress. It's there, It creates its own atmosphere, but it does not take away from the beauty of what is going on here. It allows the gathered tulle at the bust and this sort of lattice triangle detail to really be the center of attention. Rather, it just sort of uplifts. It creates a really nice, eloquent sort of style that just flows well. I think the gloves are really, really, really sweet. I do think the fact that they're sheer and they're see-through, and at certain little parts you can see the tulle gathering to create little stripes, which again, it's not having the fabric try to do something that is out of its comfort zone. It's allowing the fabric to be itself, and I think that that's very, very important. I do think that this is a custom look, and I know that we said it's haute couture, of course it's gonna be custom, but I'm not sure that I've ever seen this on a runway or on a lookbook, so I feel like it's actually a custom designed style for Anya, and I really like it. And that's the second one in a row that I really, really like. So to Law, to Anya, to Maria Grazia, again, thank you. Thank you very much. This was really lovely. This was really engaging. I had a really good time here today. Thank you. Next up is Audrey Grace Marshall, and I do not know who she is, but I know that she's wearing Molly Goddard. And she's also very young, she's 12 years old, but I just wanted to point out that I really, really like this dress. I think it's really, really sweet. When I think of Molly Goddard, I think of big, bold, gigantic shapes. But here, being able to see this shirring detail, it's not smocking, it's shirring up here at the torso, and then the tulle skirt, which we know and love, it's much more streamlined, it's much more casual. I think it's actually really, really nice, and I think it's really smart for Molly Goddard to be putting that out there, that her tulle dresses can be crazy and big and bold, but at the same time, they can actually be sort of nice and natural and easy and clean, and in that regard, I think Audrey here looks stunning. So happy for her. Good job. Next up is Catherine O'Hara, and she is wearing Ellie Saab. I'm not mad about this, but I'm at the place where I expect more from Catherine O'Hara. Like, she, to me, at least through Schitt's Creek, is a fashion girl, and so I expect crazy kooky styles. I don't think this is bad. I think it's actually kind of nice. I like the dress. It definitely has an 80s sort of flair. You have these sort of puffed shoulders, a sort of deep plunging, you know, V neckline, and then this asymmetrical ruffle skirt. Normally, layering ruffles is very strange. I don't think it always works, but here I think it's casual enough, demure enough that it makes sense and rather just adds to the dress. I think it's really the attention getter of the dress, but it's not for a bad reason. And I think everything up top from the waist up sort of just accentuates what's going on down here. It doesn't take away, but it's nice details to look at as well. Would I have done a thigh-high boot? No, but I do think that had we been able to remove the sort of crinkles and wrinkles that I can see in the boot, it would have been something we could get away with. I'm not totally opposed to it. Honestly, it's not crazy, it's not revolutionary, it's not over the top, and I expect more from Catherine O'Hara, but it's nice. That's it. Next up is Cynthia Erivo, and she is wearing Vera Wang. This is a toughie because you're utilizing black lace on a beige tulle. And while I appreciate where we're going with that, I don't know if black lace on a beige tulle is a great color combination. I do personally think that black lace is something that has to be, at this point, very subversive. It really has to be very clean, very calculated, and very chic. Otherwise, you really do get into like Queen Victoria, death, sadness, old world 1800s, early 1900s, like depressed grandma style. Like that's just, lace, you really have to do it well, otherwise it just looks old-timey and not in the good way. And I think that against a beige tulle, it gives old-timey. It feels tea-stained. And listen, sometimes I love a tea stain, but this, I don't, it doesn't help. It doesn't bring it into something new. I do think the shape is really lovely. I do think the sleeves fit well. I like the fact that it's a sort of fitted bust here. And then at the front, you have these sort of beige tulle flaps that sort of flow out in a way that's a little bit more bountiful. And so in that way, it does sort of subvert the old-timey feel of this tea stain color tulle and the black lace, but it doesn't do it enough to take you out of that mindset completely, and that's what we need. We can't be living in 1923. I'd love to see it, sometime, you know, time machine, if that comes around, I'll watch, but I don't want to live it. I don't want to be reminded of it in that way. And so in that regard, I appreciate that Cynthia took a big risk. She definitely went a little bit fashion forward. It definitely has an opulence, a sort of regality to it. It's definitely elegant, but it's not 100% on par. And I think also, like, starting off wearing Valentino Haute Couture, gigantic green, beautiful, stunning piece with boning. Thank you for everybody pointing out that that's boning in the comments down below last week. It's tough, and you gotta really, like, up yourself every single time. And so this to me falls a little bit flat from where we were at last week. Next up is Dan Levy, and he is wearing Dior Men. I don't like that Dior Men collection. I thought it was very boring. I thought it was very banal. I thought it was very uninteresting, but I think Dan Levy is kind of pulling this off. I actually think it looks very, very nice, and I think he does a very good service to Kim Jones because he proves how wearable and truly wearable Dior Men is, and that, yes, while on the runway it's kind of boring, on the everyday person, it works. So it's a black suit that's cut in a sort of military style. Kim Jones really, really likes tailoring. It's sort of his big achievement, and honestly, he's pretty good at it. And so taking military inspirations here makes a lot of sense. I do think that the silver details that pipe this jacket, I think the fact that you have them on the cuffs, you have them on the arms, you have these little, I don't know what they're called, but they're like the little straps that you wear in the military on top of your shoulders. I think it's really, really nice. I think it's exciting. I think it adds a little bit of interest. I think the black pants work. I think they're fine. I wish they were a little bit fitted more, but like it's fine. And I think the black combat boots sort of play into the military style that we just discussed. Overall, I think it's a nice way to get out of the boringness of menswear, and with Dan Levy, you can kind of always expect that that's what he's gonna do, so I'm happy with this. Very enjoyable. Next up is David Diggs, and he is wearing Versace, which I think it's Versace. It might not be, but I think it is. Here's my thing about the look. You probably are gonna look at it and say, Luke, that's terrible. It's so gauche, it's so tacky, it's so ugh, but like, that is Versace. Like, that is the true essence of Gianni Versace. So let's break down the look. I'm not going to talk about the jacket because I'm going to talk about that last, but black shirt, black pants, and the gold Medusa head slippers. Listen, everything underneath this jacket is letting the jacket do its thing, and I appreciate that. I do not appreciate the slippers. I think there are better shoes that Versace most definitely produces that could have been worn besides slippers. I understand we're at home. I get it. Like, you know, I'm not gonna crucify anybody over it. But black velvet slippers? Come on. Come on. Give me a look. I want to see a nice shoe. I want a moment. I get it. Comfort at home. It's fine. But like, I want to see David in a really nice, sexy old shoe. It would have been hot and wonderful and gorgeous and steamy. But the really important thing I think about this entire look is this jacket. It's full of this sort of big, bright, bold embroidery. And when I say it's full of, I mean like that whole thing is embroidered, which, you know, took a long time, took a lot of effort. There was a lot of handiwork that went into it. To me, it reminds me of a lot of Gianni Versace's runway pieces that were full of these crystal encrustments, full of embroidery, full of personality as well. Normally, when Versace did a lot of these sort of big, bold pieces on the runway, they had a story. They played into a collection. They played into this sort of theme and narrative, things he was interested in at the time. And so the look as a whole, I think, is really about this jacket, and we love that. Listen, I won't say I love the motif of the jacket, but I do love the channeling of Versace history in it, and so I'll take that. My one real gripe is the shoes. The shoes could have been better, and we all know that. So David, next time, let's get it going. Let's get a shoe that's hot and sexy. Next up is Dominique Fishback, and she is wearing Reem Ochre. Honestly, I love the top of this dress. It's a beautiful off-the-shoulder silver style. It sort of has like a chain mail-y feel. It seems like it's a sheer fabric that's embroidered. And honestly, when you look a little bit closer, you look a little bit deeper in there, you can actually see this sort of peachy bodice underneath that honestly flows into a peachy tulle skirt. And underneath the peachy tulle skirt, I can't tell if there's like something silver under there or if that's just her legs, but I'm not obsessed with the peachy tulle skirt on its own there. Listen, when you look up close, you see it, and that's great and that's wonderful, and you understand the storyline going on, but when you zoom out, it just looks odd. It's a strange sort of style. And so listen, for me, I understand. I'm looking a little bit deeper. I'm trying to zoom in a little bit, but the everyday person is not doing that. I want a little bit better for Dominique in the future. I think the silver is interesting. I think the peachy style, I see it, but I want to love it. I'm not loving it. I'm seeing it, I'm just not loving it. Next up is Emma Corrin, and she is wearing Schiaparelli. Now this is from the spring 2021 Schiaparelli Haute Couture collection. I thought this was one of the best Schiaparelli dresses that whole collection had. The keyhole cutout in this dress is phenomenal. It's not your everyday keyhole cutout. It's sort of like an amoeba style cutout. It has little like, I don't want to say prawns because they're not really prawns, but like little legs. They're like tiny little baby amoeba legs. And that I really love. And the fact that in between these little amoeba legs, there's a gold tooth that from each of them sprouts this strange bedazzled shape that's 3D and sort of, I don't even know what it's meant to be. I still don't understand what it's meant to be, and we've been seeing it for weeks now. I love this dress. It's strange, it's weird, it's quirky, it's crazy, and Emma Corrin went full in and wore matching earrings from that lookbook image as well. So like, she's in it to win it. And after last week, I'm like, you know what? Emma Corrin's here. She's playing the game. She's a fashion girl. We understand. She used to be a model. We got it, and I want it. I also like the fact that it's a very simple black dress, as in, it's just nicely cut. I like the fact that it's a little bit short. It's a little bit cool. It's a little bit young. Emma is a little bit cool. She's a little bit young. She's a little bit interesting. I like that we have a tight and a black heel. It doesn't take away from the dress and what's going on here. I love seeing this look out and about. I'm very happy about it. Harry Lambert, Emma Corrin, Daniel Roseberry, Schiaparelli. Good job, team. Very proud. Next up is Gal Gadot, and she is wearing Prada Garung. Now, listen, I saw this look and it had a skirt attached and it felt very like 80s opulence excitement. This style doesn't give me that completely. I actually still love this ruffle top. I think it's dramatic. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's over the top. I think it gives you this 1980s gaucheness that's like, listen, money, 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 money. And like, I'm happy with that. The pants though, not obsessed. I don't think they're the worst things in the entire world, but I feel like the beautiful form-fitting black skirt that this style was initially paired with was better. It was just a better choice to go with. I respect the fact that we're going for more of like an empowered sort of high-waisted black pant that's not like skin tight, but oh, you know what, maybe it does sort of have like a working woman 1980s sort of feel to it. So like, I see the storyline. You know what, Gal Gadot, you're changing my mind on it a little bit, but I do think the skirt was just a little bit chicer, a little bit cooler, a little bit more fun. I'm kind of understanding more and more where the pant is coming into this 1980s narrative that Prada Garung was giving in his most recent collection. If I had to give it a number rating, I'm gonna go for like a 65. It's passing in college. The top is great, it's wonderful, it's beautiful, it's stunning. The pants, I wasn't sold on initially, but like by the end, I'm sort of like, all right, I'll take it. We'll see. 65, that's a pass. D's get degrees, people. Next up is Jillian Anderson, and she is wearing Dior, and she is a Dior woman, and I'm happy that she's not wearing that awful circle halter top shit from last week. So this is a sort of crisp black suit from Maria Grazia. I really like it. I do think that this jacket has a sort of more demure bar style. Evidently, there's an interesting sort of moment going on up top. It's a little bit cinched in at the waist, and then it sort of flows out with nice pockets. I was actually reading recently Christian Dior saying things about pockets. He said that it was a great way to break up styles. He said that essentially not only was it convenient and great for when you have nothing to do with your hands, you put your hands in your pockets and it saves you from embarrassment. It was the 1950s, 1940s even probably at that point. But I do think that here it works. I do think that it adds a little bit more of a utilitarian style. No doubt Maria Grazia likes pockets, and I think that in this reality, these are probably very utilitarian pockets. Like, they probably have a nice amount of fabric underneath them to actually hold your hands. I do think the pants fit very well. They look really, really nice. And I'm not obsessed with the clutch, but I see the bee motif. I understand the bee pollinating the flowers. Christian Dior loved a beautiful flower. He liked bees. He liked gardens. Jardins, as they say in France. Overall, I think the collar shawl sort of style up here being asymmetrical, it adds a sort of quirkiness, but at the same time isn't like too ridiculous, over the top, distracting. So I enjoy it. I think it works for Gillian Anderson. I think she's pulling it off really, really well. And if she's a Dior woman for the rest of this award season, like, I'm gonna be okay with that. Next up is John Boyega, and he is wearing Louis Vuitton. And now this is from Virgil Abloh's Fall 2021 Louis Vuitton collection. This is a black and white monogram kente cloth. I do like the fact that the black and white kente cloth does have sort of the whole history of the kente cloth, and that black and white was utilized from raffia, I believe, and that's sort of how early kente cloths were sort of woven together. You can watch our Fall 2021 men's review if you really want to know more about the collection, but I'm not totally obsessed with the suit underneath it. The pants are strange to me. I understand not, you know, slim, tight pants are in. I understand Gen Z said no, absolutely not, and TikTok has probably scared a lot of millennials off of it, but it's a little bit baggy for me at the pant moment. But I like the jacket. I think it's really, really nice. The black shoe, it could have been a boot. Maybe it is a boot, but it doesn't seem like a boot. It seems a little bit blah. But I really do love the kente cloth. I think it's really, really lovely. I think John Boyega deserves all of his flowers, and I like that he's turning it out in Louis Vuitton because it's chef's kiss, and I want to see more of that great Louis Vuitton collection on John Boyega for the rest of awards season. Next up is Julia Garner, and she is wearing Christopher John Rogers. We stand. She is wearing this beautiful knit striped dress. Now, Christopher John Rogers got away from his sort of normal draping and sort of big silk taffeta styles in this dress and went more for knitwear, which I think is really, really smart. If you look at the lookbook image, you actually can't see the front of this dress, but you can see that this dress is totally backless, or not totally backless, but it's very backless. So you can just imagine Julia Garner. And I like the fact that last week we saw Julia Garner sort of expose her sternum area, and now we're not getting to see the exposed back, but she's exposing different parts of her body, which I think is an interesting sort of style, and I like that. I do think the dress is really, really nice. Christopher John Rogers was inspired by crayons and drawing and artistic sort of styles. Also in this collection, he was inspired by the iconic Patrick Kelly, who if you do not know about, you should. Honestly, I like a knit dress. I like the fact that we're seeing a knit dress in a red carpet context, and I always say this, it's nice to see knits in this world. Normally it's silks and tools and taffetas and sometimes you just want to knit. It's nice, it's enjoyable, it's different, it sort of cuts through all of the red carpet pageantry. It feels more casual, it feels more exciting. I like the color choices. You go from great primary colors like blue to red to yellow. It has a funness, it has a joy, it has an excitement, it has a youthfulness. And I like the fact that Julia Garner is wearing a young designer. She's supporting a young designer, and she's putting a young designer on this platform. I mean, Christopher John Rogers is dressed the best at this point, but it's great to see that continuation of dressing amazing actresses, actors, etc., etc. So, beautiful. Next up is Jurnee Smollett, and I have to say, I'm very happy to see her taking a risk. She's wearing this silver sequins suit. It's not great. I just don't think it's fit well, and that's my issue with Nicolas Ghesquière. Jurnee Smollett deserves so much more than ill-fitting silver sequin pants. I also think the blazer, it's just not amazing. Like the sleeves, I don't know why we didn't just let them rock. I understand we want to see the silver bracelet, but like, do we need that? I do love the fact that there's no shirt underneath, and I do love the fact that we have nice silver sort of beautiful necklaces that are layered. And I think that's smart styling. It allows the silver to be the centerpiece. It allows the silver to all come together. You don't always need a button-down shirt underneath. You always don't need a shirt underneath. And the fact that we're utilizing these beautiful silver necklaces as a shirt, as an under sort of style, is really, really lovely. But I think Louis Vuitton did her a total disservice by this ill-fitting suit. Sad. I don't really want to talk about Kaylee Cuoco because she's wearing Dolce & Gabbana. And like, this is the second time that I'm sort of like, it's not the worst thing in the entire world, but it's Dolce & Gabbana. So like, Kaylee, where were you last week? Next up is Lakeith Stanfield, and he is wearing Louis Vuitton as well. And this is another great look from that fall 2021 Louis Vuitton collection by Virgil Abloh. This stunning marble suit. Listen, I think marble as a motif on suits is wonderful. I think modern day people love marble. It is a status sort of symbol. Every celebrity in the world has marble in their house. Maybe not every celebrity, but a lot of celebrities. I think about Drake's house and I'm like, marble. Think about like Rick Owens and I'm like, marble. That's a modern luxury commodity. And so bringing that luxury commodity to suiting as a motif, I think is really, really smart. And I'm still sort of obsessed with it and I want one. The other thing about marble is when you think about marble, you think of white, black, gray, but I think in this brown, it's actually really lovely. I think the colors sort of go from this very deep brown to almost sort of sandy color. And the fact that it's not like in your face marble, you kind of got to look at it a bit more to really see what it is. It's nice. It has sort of grit. It has not a texture, but it has a real feeling to it, a life to it. It's almost like, yeah, we ripped this out of the ground and it's been growing for like 4,000 years, but at least it looks nice here. So in that regard, I'm really enjoying it. I think it fits very, very well. The pants are a little bit baggy. I don't know why we're doing baggy pants all of a sudden. It's not baggy, but it's just not skin tight. Maybe skin tight's not in and I just have to accept that. I think it's a great suit. I like the fact that it's adapted from an actual coat instead of, you know, just a suit jacket. I think Lakeith looks really, really hot, and I love marble suits. They're in, they're hot, they're sexy, they're wonderful, they're stunning. Go pick yourself up a marble suit soon. The marble suits also will be given even more awards points from me if they're made out of actual marble. Next up is Leslie Odom Jr. and he is wearing Celine. This isn't terrible. I also like the fact that with Leslie, there's actual like styling to what he wears. A lot of people, all the people that we pretty much mentioned at this point, wear things that are straight off the lookbook, straight off the runways. They are very rarely like styled. The art of styling is sort of lost nowadays. To me, I haven't looked at that Celine collection because like I don't have time to look at the same things every season, but here it feels a little bit more styled. So you have a pinstripe gray suit that, listen, the oversized pants are there, but they're growing on me. I understand it. It's Eddie Slimane. Like, he does a pinstripe suit. It's very sort of French, skinny, you know, same thing every season. The black sweater underneath, I'm okay with, I'm fine with. And I really like the little ruffle shirt. Normally when you get like a ruffly collar shirt, it's sort of big and bold and bodacious. Here this feels very casual, it feels very streamlined, it feels very Eddie Slimane, which in this moment I'll take. I'm okay with that. There's no ruffle at the sleeve. I kind of wish there was a little bit of a ruffle at the sleeve, but I like the fact that we have these sort of silver chains that sort of come all throughout and again sort of create this styled aspect to it. I won't say I'm obsessed, but I respect the fact that there is a styling to this that normally we don't see. Next up is Maria Bakalova, and she is wearing Prada, and I believe she's wearing like Lorraine Schwartz jewelry, which will play into this look in a minute. I actually think for Prada, this is a very demure style. I like the fact that this off-the-shoulder moment sort of drapes around. I like that it's plunging. It's sexy. Listen, I'm not obsessed with the bow, but I think that it plays into the headband, and in that regard, I think it sort of works well. And you have this sort of fringy style, which we saw last week. Miu Miu Prada does sort of like 20s styles. I think ever since The Great Gatsby, she's sort of been very into referencing the 1920s. And so to me, that's what this sort of fringy bow moment is. I think it's just really stunningly cut dress. I think from Prada, it's very rare that you see things that are just really clean, really classic, really simple, and really elegant. And so when you do see one, you appreciate it for what it is. I do think that I would never suspect this is Prada ever in my life, except for the headband. But that's where the fact that it's Lorraine Schwartz jewelry is interesting to me. Whoever her stylist is, I think understands the aesthetic of Prada by bringing in this headband. Miu Miu Prada, I think a few seasons ago showed headbands, and since then, those sort of silky headbands or nylon headbands have become very Prada-esque, and that's sort of what now is often associated with Prada. So in that regard, I think the fact that you have this sort of matching silver beaded or silver encrusted headband playing into the silver bow on the dress is really, really smart. I think it's a really, really nice nod to Prada as a brand. And I think it's just a nice, beautiful, cut, streamlined, stunning dress overall that I can appreciate. COVID has made me so nice and I don't know why. Next up is Paul Mescal, and he is wearing Prada as well. Prada got a lot of placements, it seems, at the Critics' Choice. Listen, it's a nicely cut suit. It's boring as that's no doubt, and the white button down isn't great either. And you'd never even know it was Prada unless you saw the little triangle there. Listen, men in general, please do something interesting. It's very boring to see this. I understand that for Prada, this is great placement of like our suits and our ties, but at the same time, It's blah. It's uninteresting. There are really great Prada menswear collections to be wearing. Let's do that. Let's move that along. Let's get that happening, because like this, you get one of these this season. Paul, if you're watching, step it up. Next up is none other than Daphne Bridgerton herself, Phoebe Dynevor. I think I said it right, possibly. And if I didn't, next week. So she's wearing this black leather dress from Louis Vuitton. Now, Nicolas Jacquard, I'm not totally mad about this one. I think this is okay. Now, listen, I think the cut of it is really, really striking. I think that it's a nice sort of fitted leather bodice. You have this very nipped in waist, if that's your kind of thing, and then a sort of puffed out little hip, a shin length cocktail-y cut dress. There, I think it's fine. I think had we removed the weird leather H harness moment going on here, it would have been great. I don't know why Nicolas Jacquard's, red carpet moment here is trying to channel Virgil Abloh. Let Virgil have the harnesses. He's good at it. It's fine. It makes sense. Here, doesn't make sense. This is not Timothée Chalamet. She cannot get away with it. I'm sorry, it's just the truth. It's so strange, it's so weird, it feels so unnecessary. Had you just let this been a dress with black straps like that, it would have been doable. But adding this bar across the middle, for what reason I can't understand. I do think that the embroidery is actually really sweet. I do think it's a little bit subversive. I do think it seems like it's 3D of some sort of style, almost like waves. And in that regard, I respect that Nicola is taking risks in the sort of motif making. I think that's cool. I think that's interesting. I think it's a little bit artsy fartsy, which like he likes to be. So in that regard, it's not offensive to the eye, which sometimes Louis Vuitton by Nicola can be, but here I think that it takes that sort of avant-garde sort of style and morphs it into something that is not overwhelming. Rather, it's a sort of interesting aspect of the dress, not the whole dress. So besides the shit harness strap moment going on here, I actually really enjoy this. So let's edit. Very important. Next up is Regina King, and she's wearing Versace, and this is a toughie. It's not good. It's fugly as shit. And like, listen, sometimes Versace can be fugly as shit, and that's fine. This is not one of those times. There's nothing appealing about this dress. There's nothing good about this dress. There's nothing exciting about this dress. This is a bad dress. It's just a bad dress. So let's break it down. You have these pleated mushrooms. They're like fabric mushrooms that branch out asymmetrically. You have straps that come in asymmetrically over the neckline for what reason I don't understand. You have this beading all throughout the dress, which with the light hitting it is strange because certain parts you think is not beaded, and then because the light is there, you're like, oh, this is a beading, this is an embroidery, oh, this is a, sequin moment going on. So in that regard, it's not great. I don't think that the pleated fabric that comes down and sort of creates odd shapes on this side, and then that leads into like a weird slit. So it's not really like a slit, it's almost like a weird sort of rectangular cut there, or at least because you have the pleating over it, it sort of makes it look like it's a rectangular cut. It's just not enjoyable. The pleating falls into like a train as well. It shouldn't be too much fabric because you're only utilizing two different styles of fabric. You're utilizing pleating and beading. But somehow the Versace team made this look so busy and not in a good way. Like sometimes Versace can be busy and it's cool and it's fun and it's exciting. This is not one of those times. It's not good. I hate it. There's much better moments for Regina King to be wearing, 100%. This is a disappointment after last week. Next up is Steven Yeun, and he is wearing Prada. Again, Steven, it's a boring ass black suit from Prada, but this is your last one. I don't want to see another boring ass black suit for the rest of the season. I want to see more exciting styles. I feel like it's fun when men actually step out and give a little bit of personality in their wardrobe choices. You don't always have to wear a black suit with a white shirt and a black tie. Yes, there's like some sort of floral motif on a tie, but like the bar is on the floor for men. Like we need to raise it, myself included. Like listen, my large oversized knit, stretchy, poncho-y polo shirt. It's not great, but at the same time, I'm trying a little bit. Steven has access to amazing Prada pieces from multiple Prada menswear collections and women's wear collections. Turn it out. Try something exciting. Do something fun, because this is not cutting it. Next up is Talia Ryder, and she is wearing Saint Laurent. This is from the most recent Saint Laurent collection, I believe. So it's a sort of silky black dress. The whole dress is sort of piped in black feathers, but there's sort of like a capey top and then a sort of dress underneath that sort of falls into like a really short cocktail-y dress. I don't think it's great. I don't understand it. And I want to understand Saint Laurent more. I'm sure that Anthony Vaccarella has some sort of way back when, like 1966, Yves Saint Laurent Haute Couture collection reference, or like some weird Rive Gauche archive piece that he's probably trying to take in. But if I'm not picking up on the reference, I don't think anybody else is picking up on the reference. Or listen, there might be some that are picking it up. It's just not a common occurrence. And so in that regard, it's just a strange dress. The silhouette is strange. It's not really excitable. It's not really interesting. The piping is fine, I guess, but it doesn't do all of that much. And I feel like there are better, more exciting looks from those Saint Laurent collections that could have been implemented. I'm not going to show you them because I'm not getting paid to be a stylist, but I'm sure they're in there. Next up is Uzo Aduba, and she is wearing Christian Siriano, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, but like, I don't hate this. I think that this jumpsuity style is sort of interesting. I like the cut of the jacket. I like that there are interesting lapels. I like the collar. Something about this gathered bust going on here is like not that bad in my mind. And like, listen, it might be 1:35 in the morning and my brain is just fried, but I kind of like it. I do think that it's a different take on a suit. I do think it's a little bit more experimental for Christian Siriano, and it doesn't look like it was handmade in, I don't know, like 10 minutes on Project Runway, which for him is like an accomplishment. I do think that the wide leg pant is not that bad. I do think that the look is very streamlined. Besides the sleeves, it actually looks quite nicely cut. It's really, really sweet in that regard. I like the purple. It's vibrant, it's exciting, it's different. I think Uzo looks really, really lovely in the color. Overall, it's a little bit experimental, it's a little bit out there, but at the same time, it's really clean. The only thing that's a little bit odd and avant-garde is the gathering at the bust, and I think that letting that be the focal feature is great. It's not gonna be everybody's taste, 100%, I understand that, but I can't totally be mad about it either. So I see you, Christian Siriano, and I'm not mad at you, so I feel like that's a way to build a bridge. I'm sure by next week, which is the Grammys, I'll wanna unbuild the bridge, but like, listen, it's something. Next up is Viola Davis, and she is wearing Greta Constantine. Now, I like the color on this. I do feel like there are better Greta Constantine looks that Viola could have pulled off though. I feel like a nice sort of big, bold, ruffly style from the brand would have really, really worked here. I understand that the ruffles here are a lot more subtle. You sort of have them on the pockets, you sort of have them at the collar and at the sleeves, but I'm just not sold on it. I think the color is fine. I think no, it's just boring. I think after last week's style, I'm sort of expecting, again, the bar to be raised. And right now, the bar isn't raised. But I do feel like from Greta Constantine, there are better looks that could have been chosen for this moment. And so in that regard, I want more from Viola. I do. I want more. Yara Shahidi wearing Christian Dior, and I believe this is Haute Couture. It's from the most recent sort of tarot collection. Unfortunately, she chose literally the worst look. I believe that this is the look that felt like buffoonery. It's really, really, it's rough. The skirt is just hideous. It's too conceptual. It's too Hilma af Klint, but like not in a good way. I think Hilma af Klint is great. She's wonderful. She's stunning. Maria Grazia trying to channel her, not exactly that. It's just too much. It's too strange. It's too weird. It's just like nonsensical, and it almost feels like it's making light of what no doubt is really amazing, stunning, handcrafted work that went into pieces like this. And that's my issue. If you're gonna make people spend days making a skirt, make it look good. Otherwise, it's not worth their time. I do actually think the top is really, really lovely though. Like the sheer style underneath this sort of quilted top is great. I think the bell sleeves are really, really fun. I think it adds a little bit of extravagance, a little bit of interest, a little bit. I do wish that the sheer top with these beautiful big old bell sleeves had actually been transformed into a whole dress, and I feel like you could have just added this little beautiful quilted top with this weird blue dog on it over it, and it would have sort of played out really, really well. It could have been a little bit longer, covered right up to here, and then you have the big sort of bell sleeves that match a big sort of poofy skirt, and it would have been really fun, very Dior, but at the same time sort of this like handmade sort of whimsical Maria Grazia isms that would have kind of all played together well. But unfortunately, we didn't get that. We just got discombobulation nation. So poor Yara, that sucks, but also like why we chose that I'm not understanding. Again, beautiful jacquards. There were beautiful jacquards in that whole collection, and yet this is what we chose? No, no, there's no excuse for it. I'm really sorry, there's no excuse for it. So the last person we're gonna be talking about is Zendaya, which honestly is kind of crazy because Zendaya's pictures of her wearing Valentino Haute Couture Spring 2021 came out not the night of the award show. Instead, the high-def photos came out the morning after, so I'm actually recording this a whole day later, but it's Zendaya, it's Valentino Haute Couture. Like, those are two things that I'm willing to re-record for. Very few things I'm willing to do a round two of. These two things combined makes me want to do it even more. So let's talk about this look. Now, on the runway, this was a look that was a sort of white tank top that was draped over this big, bold, neon orange ball gown. Honestly, the only thing that's really different in this scenario is that La Roche, an icon, tucked this tank top in. It's like a beautiful crepe tank top over this gigantic scuba neon sort of neoprene skirt. I think the choice was correct. I don't think it was bad when it was sort of flowing over the ball gown skirt, but I do think the fact that we're getting a little bit more of this casual sort of top being tucked into the shirt, and because you have this tuck, you actually see like a little bit more of the side exposed. It looks a little bit looser, it looks a little bit more casual, even though how you can wear a gigantic orange ball gown skirt and make it casual, I don't know. It's the magic of Zendaya. In reality, I think this look is a direct reference back to the sort of difference between Valentino's Fall 2020 Haute Couture collection and the Spring 2021 Haute Couture collection. To me, the white is a reference back to that starkness, back to this sort of blank slate that sort of came with COVID for many people. And I also think at the same time, the fact that it's a tank top that's very casual, very sort of simple, very just the everyday thing that the everyday person could wear, and it's paired with a gigantic ball gown skirt, sort of looks at the in-between of where we are. Not only does Zendaya as a celebrity have to wear a red carpet sort of look, but she's not wearing it on a red carpet. She's wearing it at home or in a studio or in the comfort of a place that she feels familiar with. So in that regard, you can understand why she's wearing this tank top, which no doubt is haute couture and made with beautiful ivory crepe fabric that probably costs an arm and a leg and maybe a few toes in there too. But when it's paired with this gigantic ball gown skirt, it sort of adds a regality, a sort of dramatization, an idea of what we might go into in the future. I've heard that people more and more are tired of wearing sweatpants or just wearing casual clothes, and when they go out, when things are hopefully better, they want to wear insane things. They want to wear craziness. They want to be sort of expressive of themselves through their clothing. And so to me, that is what's happening here. There is this mixture of the comfort and the sort of at-homeliness that we are living in, some of us are living in, but at the same time, there is this want and this need for this gigantic, over-the-top sort of living of life and exuberance and happiness and joy that comes in the skirt. I think that it's really, really lovely. I'm happy to see Zendaya in Valentino. She is one of their brand ambassadors now. And I do think that this actually speaks to Zendaya as a sort of style icon in a way. We've seen a couple of magazine covers where Zendaya is wearing these sort of over-the-top, big, haute couture-esque items, and at the same time, her and La Roche style these really, really high-end expensive pieces with more casual pieces like sneakers. To me, this look sort of carries on that idea. It mixes these things that are normally seen as casual, not opulent, not, you know, of the establishment, and at the same time combines it with these things that are undeniably of the establishment, opulent, expensive, elegant. And so I think that in reality, it's really a commentary on where we are right now in the world of fashion. There is this sort of old world upper crust attitude that people still subscribe to, but at the same time, there is this sort of newness, this sort of breaking down of these rules of who you are and what you wear and how you wear it and why you should wear it. And so to me, I think this is just a really beautiful, stunning, gorgeous commentary on that in Zendaya and La Roche's own words. And I think that it plays into Valentino very much so as well under Pier Paolo. So I think it's a perfect way to sort of end off this whole Critics' Choice Awards. And listen, I have no problem refilming for Valentino Haute Couture and for Zendaya. So I'm loving it. So that is the end of our review, and so let's talk about the best and the worst looks of the night. I think best look of the night is gonna have to go to Emma Corrin. The Schiaparelli is so good, it's so exciting, it's so out there, it's such a risk, and yet it paid off beautifully, and so I'm very, very proud of her for that moment. The worst I'm gonna have to give to Yara Shahidi. There's just no excuse for that Dior look. There were like 40 looks in that collection, and you chose the worst one, and we don't know why, and we want to know. We're inquisitive. So that is the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'd love to hear all of your thoughts and opinions. I will see you guys in the next one, and TTYL.